You're listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast, brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to Ingram Essentials, Workflow Enhancements, and ipage Improvements, a session that was presented at Children's Institute 2024 in New Orleans.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining, coming to our session today. This is going to be, as you can read, it's going to be about, the session is called Ingram Essentials, Workflow Enhancements and ipage Improvements. Really, and by the way, my name is Ron Smithson. I'm the Director of Field Sales at Ingram. Marsha Wood is the sales rep for us, a field rep in the South. And I'm going to be starting it off talking, and if any of you have attended any of the sessions that I did it at Winter Institute, and I did some regionals to give some updates on all the investment and automation that we're making. That's what a lot of this, the first part's going to be about, and then I'll be turning it over to Marsha, and she wants to show you about some recent ipage improvements. So let's go ahead and get started. I think all of you have seen some of the housekeeping notes from the ABA and other sessions that you've attended. I think the one thing that they wanted to make sure, and I think it's at the end, is just that you remember to rate the session if you could and give them some feedback on the session.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, well, that'd be
Okay.
At the end, we're going to try to leave a little bit of time at the end for some questions. With about 10 minutes to go, we hope. And then what we ask you to do is to come up to the microphone to ask the question. This is hard on me right now. I'm used to standing up to do a presentation, so I'm having to sit down, so I use the microphone myself. So they need to be able to, so it'll record well, and they'll be able to capture your question. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I told you my name is Ron Smithson. I'm the Director of Field Sales. And we're going to talk about some of these improvements that we have going on. We've really been calling it investment in indies. And so for the last... this is just a quick agenda. It's the automation update, ipage help, and then some browse and orders tab. So if you attend any of those sessions, you'll know that we started this initiative back in 2022. It actually probably started before the pandemic started. Our leadership had identified that there was really a need for automation, especially in our Laverne and Chambersburg facilities, which are two largest facilities. It was obvious that there were going to be issues ahead in dealing, as you guys also deal with. There's rising wages, operational costs continue to rise. We really have high turnover in our DCs. It's difficult to continue to bring in talent and workers. And these were all factors that we really had to consider, and the answer to this was automation. And so that was back in 2022. And then if any of you remember, all this started in earnest then last year. We started prepping all in Chambersburg first. And this whole project was called Project 1440. The first thing was to install, and you're going to see some of it here in just a second, was to install the Geek Plus robot system. And so let me go ahead and while I'm talking, the reason for this is the things I mentioned. We want to invest. We obviously believe that the book industry is healthy. It's going to be healthy for a long time. We need to invest it so that we can continue to have our same level of efficiency ourselves and ensure our sustainability, your sustainability, and our dependability of the shipments that you expect from us. It has been a very difficult time. We, just so you know, in our DCs, when I mentioned about workforce, we experience over 80% turnover in our DCs. And it's really hard to keep people trained on all the things that they need to know. So, again, automation helps us with that. We have probably a 20 to 25% of our workforce that have been there for a long time. They'll continue to be there for a long time. It's that 80%, there's temporary help, part-time help, seasonal help that we won't be as dependent on. And the other good part about all this project, it has also created a lot more higher paying jobs for the people because they're having to train and learn on some new things that they've never had to do before. So it'll help us continue to be consistent for years to come. What you're seeing here while I'm talking is Chambersburg. So, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Chambersburg because this is already done, but what this is, you can see, you saw in the back of that first picture, and you'll see it again in a second, the tall racks that go to the ceiling. That's what our DCs looked like in the past. What you saw there and what you're seeing here is what the change has been to. So it's like 30,000 square feet of smaller racks, but are picked up and carried by these Geek Plus robots. And so what happens is instead of the pickers walking up and down, and then you can see over the right is what it looked like. It was a warehouse full of the tall fixtures. You had workers walking around to pick your orders. They would be walking anywhere between 9 to 15 miles a shift just to get books. What happens now is the Geek Plus brings the books to them. And so that grid you see there is there's a command station that shows the picture of the whole warehouse and where the robots are at any given time. There are about 19 over on the right there. You see there's about 19 of those picking stations. And so that's the Geek Plus. It took place all of last year, 2023. It is fully operational now. We continue to tweak it and to even make it more efficient. If any of you are located on the East Coast, who else is located? Okay, hopefully you've noticed, and the reason I'm saying this too is you probably saw in 2023 we weren't as consistent as we normally are. Hopefully what you've seen so far in 2024 is we're returning to that consistency. And that is, again, continuing to be tweaked so that it'll just get better and better. But I hosted a group from NABA that came, I don't know if any of you were there. They actually did a tour of this, and they were amazed, watching this. If you saw on the social media platforms, some closed Facebook groups, they were posting their pictures and their videos from their trip and how much they really enjoyed and how much they learned when they visited Chambersburg. So anyway, that is what's going on in Chambersburg. The second part of the project also started taking place midway through the year last year, and that was where we closed down Allentown print-on-demand facility and moved it all to Chambersburg. And so for the first time ever, we have POD and distribution services all under the same roof. So for the people that are on the East Coast, hopefully you've started noticing that too. When in the past, when you've had a print-on-demand or an order that had print-on-demand books in it, what would have happened is your stocked inventory would have been filled out of Chambersburg, and then your POD units would have come down to Laverne, where we would have printed them and shipped to you. Takes a while to do that. Now, they're all printed in Chambersburg, and they'll be married up with your regular orders, so you should be getting them close to the same speed as you're getting your stock books. They still got to be printed and then put in the box and sent to you. We have turned on POD to all indies that have Chambersburg as a primary DC. So I think in the last 2 months, you're probably seeing, when you have a POD book in an order, really faster service on getting those POD books. We'll be turning on everyone else by the end of this month. And so what that'll help us do is if you're an ipage today, you'll notice that even for books that are POD, there's not showing any inventory in Chambersburg. As soon as we're able to turn all customers on to POD in Chambersburg, they'll also start showing inventory in Chambersburg. Keep in mind when you're looking at ipage, the number, if it's a book that's in POD, that number is not a real number, it's a made-up number instead of having 0 so that you know to order it. The system just kind of randomly gives it a number of units. That just encourages people. The thing you're really looking for to identify that it's POD book is there's a message on ipage and it says takes 3 to 4 days to ship. That's your clue that it's POD. So if you're a Chambersburg primary customer, you really don't need to do too much different. Just place your orders with Chambersburg. If it has POD in it, it'll be printed there, shipped to you. Everyone else, you'll also have the ability to order out of Chambersburg too, and have POD books included if you so choose to order out of Chambersburg. But the main thing is that it'll start showing inventory on ipage that'll help with your ordering. Okay, so that's what's been going on in Chambersburg. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about that. It's up and running. We're just continuing to tweak it and make it even faster and more efficient. what I'm really wanting to give the update on today is what's going on in Laverne. And so this, I'm gonna let this play while I'm talking like I did the other one. We're not gonna be going with a, ooh, sorry about it. Hold on one second. I didn't think there was a volume in there. Let me turn that down. Okay, so this is a video from the company AutoStore. So it's going to be different than the Geek Plus system that we're using in Chambersburg. AutoStore is, and what you're seeing here is a visualization of a DC. So what you saw just happen is all those books that are in a 240,000 square foot space are now condensed down to a 30,000 square foot box. And the books will all be put in bins, and those are the robots that run on top of the box. So what happens is the books are in bins that are stacked 13 high, the bins are, with full of books in them. The robots, the orders come out to the warehouse, the robots run on top of the grid, pick up the bin, bring it down and drop it down to a picker, which you're seeing right there. The picker takes this is a belt there, but it takes the book out of the box and starts your order. As soon as your order is completed, it goes on a conveyor, goes over to to packing and then shipping. So in that box that's 30,000 square feet, there are 80,000 bins of books, 2.3 million books inside that box. That's about 80% of the daily demand of books that we need to be. So that tells you 20% of the orders will still be manual picked outside of AutoStore. But the vast majority of your books will be coming out of that AutoStore. What you're seeing here is the good news about AutoStore 2. If we decide to make it bigger, we can. It's easy to make it bigger. It'll have 170 robots on top of it now. The next thing you're going to see as soon as this video ends is I'm going to show you a time lapse of it being built in Laverne. We started prepping the DC last summer. We had to get the floor of the DC completely level, and then starting in January, started building it. Actually before I came here, Monday I walked out there just to look at it and myself and to see it, and it's really just incredible to see. So what's going to happen, this is the time lapse, and you can just watch. This is from starting on January 1, and it'll end to today. What you're going to see next is the timeline. I'll go ahead and start talking to the timeline in the sake of time. So what'll happen in general with this is that the week in mid-July, we'll start live testing the AutoStore. And then the next week after that, say July the 22nd, we're going to start utilizing the AutoStore for the print-on-demand orders out of Laverne. So if you've ever been to Laverne, when Winter Institute was in Memphis, some people came and did the tour there. You know that our print-on-demand facility, Lightning Source, is down the street from our warehouse. And so what happens is the book is printed, it's put in a blue tote, and it's brought up the street, and then they pick it just like they do stocked orders. So what'll happen with this AutoStore is when they bring those blue totes down the street, instead of putting them on shelves, they're going to go right into the AutoStore, and they'll do their testing by fulfilling the POD orders out of AutoStore. That'll take place in July around the 22nd to the 28th. On July the 29th through August the 4th, they'll start stocking it even more with the POD books, and they'll also start with the receiving of stocked books into there. And what stock means is the books that come in from the publishers to us, they'll start being ingested into the AutoStore to start filling orders. Receiving is just the normal process. The replenishment is what goes into AutoStore. Any of your books that are still case lots would probably not be filled out of AutoStore. They'll just be manually picked. What you see now, that's the finished, that's as of last week. And you can see the robots are already on top. They still are now just getting in all the electronics and getting it ready to start testing. that's just the visualization of what it looks like overall. Here's that timeline I was talking about. So on July the 29th, they'll start receiving and start putting the books in the bins. On August the 4th, they'll have it about 50% ready to go and really start ramp up the receiving to start fill up the box, the auto store. On the 19th, they'll continue to up the number of books that are in there, and then re-warehousing becomes active. Re-warehousing means all the books that are on those shelves now will be taken off the shelves and put into auto store. So that by the end of August, it will be fully ready to go to start filling orders, and then we'll prep, tweak it, do all the tweaking we need to do so that it's full go by the time a busy season hits. So that's what's going on with our automation project. I think the main point that really want to make here, we were just up at our table talking to DJ, and we've talked to some other from Baldwin here in town, and talking to some other retailers about the future of what do we see for the future of the industry. John Ingram believes that the book industry is healthy, going to be healthy for a long time, and that's why he's wanting to make these investments in automation. Once this is done, we'll let it start paying for itself back for a couple of years, but we've already got things on the roadmap for what the next step will be. And there'll be some improvements that will probably be looking at Roseburg next. We are going to, and if any of you are on the West Coast, we'll tell you that what we're hoping to be able to do, we're running all the financial analysis and everything today, is to be able to put print lines in Roseburg. So then you'd have the whole country that would be getting both stock books and POD books really, really fast. So that's the things that are coming from Ingram. Hold your questions for now. At the end, we'll have some questions, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to Marsha, that's going to talk a little bit about some of these ipage enhancements.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So, as you know, we have been working hard to get, I'm going to just get rid of this Ingram alert. You all know that we're going to be closed on Juneteenth. So when you open iPage now and you go to the Help tab, this has just received a huge makeover. And I'm not going to go into all the things, but I do encourage you to click on any of these links, and you're going to have a brief explanation of how to look at things. But one thing for sure I want you to look at is quick tips. This is what your home screen very generally looks like. When you hit the Help tab, this is what your page looks like. So I just want to ask you to please look at quick tips. There are 6 videos pre-recorded that will take you into some really detailed explanation of how to do some things. There's a printable PDF user guide. The FAQs have all been updated. That's where you're going to find your direct-to-home fees, your direct-to-home mail options, and how much they cost, all that good stuff. But really, this area right here, report a discrepancy, this is huge. You can now report damages, you can report misshipments, you can report defectives. When the page opens, and I believe this is what it's going to show, this is what it looks like. Report a discrepancy. So you'll just fill out the fields that are required of you. I believe it's asking for the invoice number. If you don't know how to find your invoice number, this will open in a separate window. So go back into iPage, go to your Orders tab, Order Status, and then you can do Order Status Search and just plug in your ISBN number that you want to report When you do that, one line will show up. It will have your OE number as well as your invoice number. So you can just copy that invoice number and plug it into this field. So again, if you're looking for an invoice number, go to Orders, Order Status Search, plug in your ISBN number, and you'll get it on one line for your ISBN number. So when you report a discrepancy of any kind, the damaged misshipment or defective unit, and it comes directly into customer care, if it's under $25, a credit's going to be issued immediately. So this is a huge game changer for us. If it's more than $25 for your report, your credit will be issued when the books are received, but you will receive a call tag to ship those back. Then the credit will be sent out when the books are received by Ingram. All right, so I think, I wish that we could go live here because there's just so many things that I'd like to tell you about, but I do encourage you to explore all these options on the new help page, because they have really done a lot of work to help you guys figure things out. And there's a great support guide with a number of different blocks of information that are a quick read. So please check that out. I think we have a little bit more time. We're going to go for a couple more minutes. So what I'm going to do then is just talk to you about the browse and order tabs. So when I talk about the tab bar in ipage, it's the black bar across the top of any screen, right? So it starts with browse and something and orders and all those things. So in your orders tab, orders, order status, and order status search, in that order, are just very key tools for all of you to use to find OE numbers, to find your invoice number, to find tracking, all of those things, okay? You can also, when you go to orders, order status, you can, and go to order status search, on the far left-hand side of the screen, you can hit one of the radio buttons for all committed items or all processing items. So you're not looking at all open items, be they back-ordered, processing, or committed all on one screen. So you can nail it down, which is very handy, especially when you're trying to figure out how you're going to get your free freight. I also want to talk about the Browse tab for a minute. I think most of you all should know that we're currently offering an extra 2% on books that are ordered 42 days in advance of the street date. 42 days being 6 weeks out. That gives our buyers time to adapt their orders for any back orders, pre-orders that come in. So in the Browse tab, in the center there, you can see the on sale date Street Smart, which is really highly active books. Street Smart meaning the publisher has put extra emphasis on that book by giving it a on sale date. Or you can go down to forthcoming. But when you click on those, either of those, you can use your refine within your results down the left-hand side of the page and go to the calendar. Go to 42 days out and plug that in as your beginning date, and then go, say, through the next 8 weeks or the next 10 weeks or through the end of the year. When you update that screen, you can then sort that list by initial buy. It should be sorted by street date, I believe, but that sorted button is really key, because when you sort by Ingram's initial buy, that brings the cream of the crop to the top. Those are the books that Ingram is banking on to be big sellers, and we have a, kind of a history of being able to tell what's going to be hot. So when you look at those, then you can either click through the title or just make your check marks, add them to your new selection list that you're going to name 6 weeks out or what have you, front list. When you place that order, they will go into back order, right? Back order status. But when they become available, they will be able to ship to you with an extra 2% discount. So be sure and use that feature. It's a wonderful thing, really wonderful thing. People are asking me all the time now, why am I getting this extra discount? And you've used this program. That's a great thing. So be sure and use it. I think that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today. I think maybe questions. Does anybody have anything? I wish I could show you. I wish I could be working through iPage with you, and I'm sorry that I cannot.
Yeah, come up to the mic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mel from DC, Los Angeles. There we go. I'm short. I have a practical question. For the discrepancies, for getting the call tags, has that started yet, or is there a start date for that?
Oh, it's started.
Okay, I just haven't had anything over $25 to report.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then does the call tag go to the email that's associated, like the main email that's associated?
It should be associated with, I don't think, it's going to be the main email address associated with your ship to number.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to say that the discrepancies, reported discrepancy has had a couple of glitches. You'd fill it all the way out and you'd hit submit and it'd say nope. So that's been worked out, I'm told, as of this week. So if you run into problems like that, contact your sales rep. If you don't know your sales rep, come see me. I'll let you know. We have some cards on our table upstairs with your sales reps and their territory. So we can get you to the right people.
And really, even those orders, or excuse me, the discrepancies that are over $25, what it's also doing is it's creating a priority ticket within customer care. So even the response time should be much faster versus an email or a phone call or whatever, and they're getting on it. And so even those credits are coming very fast. Yep.
Very fast.
Yep.
Yep.
Please come to the mic.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm from An Unlikely Story in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I guess this doesn't have to do with automation, just a general Ingram question.
Okay.
Years ago, you used to have, not a program, but an offering for ordering books for author events,
Mm-hmm.
in which you could then return them after and get the full credit back on them.
Yes.
But that went away. And would you consider bringing that back?
Well, we have, okay.
The reason I ask is because in the past year, our author events, obviously we order from the publisher
Yes.
for the events, but more and more people are signing up for our events at the last minute.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it's in 3 days and
Yeah.
you don't have enough books.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yes. So, thank you. But I did work internally to create. We haven't marketed. We don't really talk too much about it, other than. But yes, we can help you with those if you just contact your rep. It's kind of a little bit of a manual process.
Okay.
But so here's what happens. If you would, and by the way, does everyone know who their Ingram rep is, wholesale rep? If you don't, our table up there, we have some cards, and it says where you are in the country, who your rep is.
Okay.
You know.
I think it's still Jason.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have 5 field reps. Marsha's one, Jason's one in the Northeast, and 2 inside sales reps, and any one of those can help you. So if you've got. Really, as a wholesaler, what we did was we tried to create something exactly what you described. Last-minute events that you need help with, the last-minute opportunity, but yet you also need to be able to have flexibility to return the books and get full credit.
Right.
So what we have is you would just reach out to them. They'll help you place the order for the event, and the reason you could place the order on your own, but it just helps us to be able to put the process in motion, be able to track it, and do all that we have to do. So let them place the order, and also to make sure that the order gets out to you on time.
Right.
So you reach out to them. They'll use a certain order type to place the order for you. Hold your event. And then what you would do is then say, they'll give you a form. We have a form, it's called a BKF. You don't need to know. It's an old one of those acronyms within our system, but we use that, and you'll let them know. They'll send you the form. It'll say, okay, we ordered 25 books and we sold 20 of them. I need to return 5. And they'll put that through. You'll get your full credit back, 100% credit on those
Great.
books.
Thank
We
you.
just send you that form, and you just complete
that.
the bottom of it. You just say, I'm sending this many cartons, and I'll say, make a copy of it for each of your cartons.
Right.
Got it.
And
Okay.
you'll put it inside the box.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I know that you guys see a lot of POD, print-on-demand, print-to-order titles in our database, and it's only going to get bigger. That is only going to get bigger. And when you're working book events and you have POD titles, come to us as early as possible so that we can get those produced and out to you on time for your event. Any event orders, get it to us just as soon as you can so that we can make sure that they're getting out to you timely.
I really meant to mention that when I was talking about the automation, about POD in particular, is, it wasn't that many years ago, probably less than 5 years ago, that print-on-demand books made up of the orders we get from indies were less than 3% of your sales that you did with us. Today, the average indie, it's between 13 and 18% of their sales. And that's because besides just all the self-published stuff that's pure POD out of Lightning Source, more and more publishers are now putting their titles into POD. They've run out of storage themselves. They've run the P&Ls on it themselves. That instead of stocking a book on their shelves, it's just better for them to put it in POD. So it was 2 years ago, Penguin Random House hardly had any titles in Lightning Source. Now they're our largest publisher of titles in Lightning Source. So it'll continue to grow. That's why it's important for us to do what we did in Chambersburg so we could get those books to you fast, and why we're considering even the Roseburg thing.
And Ron mentioned this earlier when, your clue when it says available to ship within 4 days or available to ship sometime, that's under the stock check box on a title detail screen. So that, be sure and look for that. That's your tell.
Any other questions from anybody? Anything, especially about the automation that's going on? The reason it's important, I've been on like almost for a good year and a half talking about it, just because we want to keep you informed. People might have noticed, as I said a while ago in Chambersburg, a level of service that had declined a little bit in the speed. That's coming back. And now Laverne's doing actually a phenomenal job right now continuing to get books out as fast as they are, knowing everything that's been going on in that DC. But again, the good news is by the fourth quarter, both DCs are going to be full go with all the automation. And Roseburg and Fort Wayne they're smaller, and they've just always been great anyway, and getting books out very fast. You can put it on there.
I wanted to mention one thing real quick. We've got the big banner upstairs about Book Love. And if you haven't signed up for Book Love or you don't know where to track your goal, in iPage on that black tab, the tab bar, go to My Account, and then it would come down on the left-hand side at the bottom, and it would say Book Love Rewards Program. Okay, and you can enroll for free, and you just pop in your account number and your email, and bing, bang, boom, you're enrolled. So be sure and do that, okay? It's a great way to make a nice credit on your account if you make your goal in January or February.
And it's all purchases that you do with Ingram, both wholesale and IPS, all count toward your book club goal.
And if you signed up today, it would be retroactive through the whole year, through December 31st.
You might have to come to the first microphone. I think that's the standby one.
I'm short too. In terms of the POD, does that mean there'll be deeper backlists that you'll be able to ship?
It's
Yeah,
all
whatever
kinds of
whatever the
books.
publishers
Okay.
choose to put in there, yes. And so, but you're right. I mean, the majority of what the publishers are putting in are all that deeper backlist stuff. So if I'm making up the number, but if they annually only sell, 10 copies themselves, instead of having 10 copies on their shelf, they just put it in POD.
But there's also a program in POD called GAP.
Yeah.
So if a title takes off from a publisher, it's just selling like gangbusters, we can move that title from the publisher into a GAP program, print it on demand until they get their next reprint from overseas or from wherever. So POD means a lot of things to a lot of people now, so be very aware. I will say this, when you're working with local authors and they want you to buy their book and it's POD through Ingram, if the discount is short, talk to the author, tell them to get in touch with their connection at either Lightning Source or at Ingram Spark, because they're the ones that control what that discount is going to be.
Right. And I should have mentioned, you're right, that what Marsha mentioned about Gap, that's probably where the bulk of that growth of POD sales is coming from, because it's not the longer tail small stuff. But if we run out and they run out, you don't have to run out. We just keep books printing and shipping. Go ahead. Oh, okay. There you go.
My name's Trevor with Tattered Cover Bookstore, and I just had a quick question regarding how this automation might come into play with the processing time for returns outside of discrepancies, if we'll see an improved time on credits for regular returns, or if that's part of this at all.
I have not, go ahead.
So from what I understand, I regularly get this question. So I'm kind of in touch with the Return Center in Fort Wayne at least once a week, and I'm asking, how far behind are we? So very generally, I would say if you're expecting a credit, I'd say 3 weeks is about an average time. Some are going to be quicker, some are going to be slower. What I can encourage you to do is make sure you include a complete packing list of your entire return and put it in every carton. Every carton that you send. Also number your cartons. If you have a 5-carton return, this is one of 1, this is one of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, 4. And include the entire paperwork. That way so what I imagine is basically what's going on in there. They're packing up all the books and all. We think that all 5 of our cartons are going to arrive or be shipped on the same. No, right? They receive them into that facility, and 1 carton might be here, and 1 carton might come in tomorrow. They don't wait for all of them to get there at one time, right? So if you've got your paperwork in each carton, they know that it's supposed to be all together.
And it was a good question, because the other thing I failed to mention was that, as you guys all know, Chambersburg historically always was the return center. It was changed to Fort Wayne, and it was because of this automation project. But that also means it's a new job for the people in Fort Wayne. And so, and I mentioned with the automation that our average salaries are increasing. So what we are doing in our DCs today is there's a starting salary that everyone gets, and the more jobs you cross-train on, the higher your pay goes up. So if all you know how to do and all you want to learn how to do is pack, you would make this. If you also want to learn how to receive, if you want to learn how to do returns, if you want to return everything, your pay goes. So there's 5 different categories that they can learn to do. And that way, that gives us the flexibility. When we need more people in returns, we can move them over to returns. When we need more people receiving, we can put them in receiving. So it's definitely an initiative of ours to keep that 20 to 25% of people that have been there a long time is cross-trained on as many jobs as they can, and they'll earn higher pay.
Anybody? All right.
Well, I do want to take the chance to say thank you to all of you guys. We really do appreciate your business. Please make sure to always reach out. You have my name now. It's Ron Smithson. On our desk up there has all our contact information if you want to get one of those cards. But we appreciate your business. We want to hear from you. If there's anything we can be doing for you, anything we can be doing better, please reach out and let us know. But I hope you have a good, I guess the show is about to wrap up though, isn't it? A good rest of the show. Safe travels home. And again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the Bookstore Education Podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!